Okay, hello everyone. I hope you're staying warm. Guys, today we're going to look at multiplying polynomials, okay? We looked at adding and subtracting them earlier this week. Now we're going to multiply them. All right? Multiplying two polynomials together. That's basically what we're going to do. As long as you learn to multiply two, you can learn to multiply a whole bunch. Just do them two at a time. All right, today's essential question: how do you multiply two polynomials together? There's different ways to do it. All right, let's take a look here. I'm going to go up here. Guys, just to review. Guys, when you multiply exponents together, all right, you multiply powers with the same base. You add the exponents up. All right, so if this says b to the raised to the third power times b raised to the eighth power, you just add up 8 plus 3 and get 11. Okay, because again, you're multiplying them together. The exponent counts how many times you're multiplying them together. So you add the exponents. You don't multiply the exponents together. You add them together and keep the same base, okay? Guys, again, this is a little bit of a review, but it's part of the assessment here today, okay? Guys, polynomials are named by their degree and the number of terms. That's how we name the polynomial. For instance, a polynomial like 7, that's just a constant. It's a constant monomial because it only has one term. But 2x, that's linear. That's a linear monomial, one term again, okay? This one here that says 4x squared, that has a degree of 2. A degree of 2 is a quadratic. And this has 3 terms. So we call it a quadratic trinomial. I want you to know those. All right, the last one is just an example. It's a cubic binomial. Cubic because it has a degree of 3. Okay? Those are the ones I want you to know. Okay? Cubic, quadratic, linear, constant. I want you to know a monomial is one term. A binomial is 2 terms. A trinomial is 3 terms. Okay? We got a bunch of examples here, guys, okay? First, what's a monomial times a trinomial? All right, so we do one right here. I'm not going to go through the whole thing in detail because I do it in the next video. But what you do is you take this negative 4x to the third and distribute it over all 3 of the terms in the trinomial. You see how we multiply negative 4x to the third times each one of these terms. Okay? Also notice that x to the third times x squared is x to the fifth. Okay? And also notice that negative 4 times 3 is negative 12. You do multiply the coefficient, the number in front of the variable. Okay? Also, negative 4 times negative 4 is positive 16. And the x to the third just carries through. Just think of it as times 1. So you have to keep it there. All right? Next example. Guys, this is 2 binomials. And sometimes we call this the FOIL method, where you multiply the first 2, and then you multiply the outside 2, then you multiply the inside 2, then you multiply the last 2. You notice when we take a binomial times a binomial, we end up with 4 terms. All right, because each term in each binomial has to be multiplied by each term in the other one. So as you see here, we end up with 4 terms. However, very often, you guys, a couple of those terms are like terms and they can be combined together. Right? Which is what happens here. Again, two linear binomials multiplied together, you end up with a quadratic trinomial often. Not always, but often. And again, the product of two polynomials is always another polynomial. That's the same if you add or subtract them. Right? It's called closure. You need to know that. All right? For one of the assessments. All right, I'm going to put over here. This is example 3. Guys, multiply two binomials. You can use a table if you want. So let's go x plus 5 times x plus 8. You kind of put them in a table here. So this is x plus 8 on top, x plus 5 down the side here. And then just go x times x, well, that's x squared. And x times 8, that's 8x. And just fill out your table. Yet there's the 4 terms right there. And quite often, along this diagonal, you have like terms, and you can combine them together. Okay? And again, read what this says down here. When two linear binomials are multiplied together, the product is always a quadratic, and it's often a trinomial. Not always, but often. Right, another example. This is a trinomial times a binomial. All right, and I always use a table for this one. All right, in this case, the 3x plus 4, I put down the side here. And the x squared plus 2x minus 1, I put across the top. And multiply them all together. All right, here in color are the like terms that you can combine together. As you see, there are 6 terms here. All right, but some of this you can combine together. So our answer, we end up with a 4-term answer. All right, this is a cubic. All right. Example 5 is a square. It's a square of a binomial. And you can go ahead and put it in a box, or go ahead and foil it if you want, and multiply it out. And I want you to see there's a kind of a pattern here to this one. This is example 5 is our first special case, you can call it. I'll drag myself down here. All right. Guys, if you notice a plus b squared like this, the answer is the first one squared, a squared, and the last term is the last one squared, b squared, and the term in the middle is always a times b times 2. All right, so you can go through all of this here if you want. But look at this example here, 4x plus 3 squared. 4x squared is 16x squared. That's the answer, that's the first term right there in our answer. And 3 squared, 3 times 3, that's 9. That goes right there. And then just multiply 4x times 3, that's 12x, times 2. That's 24x. And that's what goes in the middle. You could do it like that. Okay? And here's another example of the FOIL method. The first 2, the outside 2, the inside 2, and the last 2. You could do it like that if you want as well. There's just another example. But just to show you, 3x times 3x, that's 9x squared. Negative 7 times negative 7, that's positive 49. And then just go 3x times negative 7 is negative 21x. Times 2 is negative 42x. All right, and there's those two negative 21x's right there. All right, last example. I'm running out of time here. Guys, it's the product of a sum and a difference. These have a fancy name called a conjugate pair. Okay, a plus b times a minus b. It's kind of weird because what happens, the middle term disappears. It eliminates itself because you get the negative ab plus the positive ab. So our answer is simply the first one squared, a squared, minus the last one squared, b squared. The solution is always the difference between two squares. The difference, the negative sign in between. Again, here's an example. 2x plus 3 and 2x minus 3. Well, guys, 2x times 2x, that's 4x squared. Look at our answer, 4x squared. And 3 times 3, that's 9. That goes right there. And then put a negative sign in between them. Whenever you see that conjugate pair, the product of a sum and a difference, it's really easy just to go right for the answer. Okay, and I'll do some of these in the next video, okay? I just want to go through some examples right now. All right, guys, I'm out of time. Right now, go ahead and do the notes assignment and the summary. Get ready for the next Zoom meeting. And guys, these are the 4 vocabulary questions here today. All right, I'm going to give you some examples. You have to find which one's the quadratic trinomial, and which one's the cubic binomial, and which one's the linear monomial, okay? And then which one is the difference between two squares. I want you to be able to recognize what all 4 of those things are. All right? All right, guys, I'll see you in the next Zoom meeting.